All right. Mm. Oh, that was fast. Just waiting on YouTube and Twitch. Mm, there it goes. Welcome everybody to the live and the replay. We've got a beautiful, beloved sister in the house that I don't know. And in typical Sology fashion, we're going to get to know her in front of all of our brothers and sisters and have a spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and depending on what we're talking about or doing, courageous sharing of space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to allow people time to come in because we are getting suppressed, so the notifications aren't going out. So if you could, if these shows resonate with you, please share to your page or to a group. That would help us out a lot. We'll be back in a minute and 19 seconds with the beautiful Camille Ochoa. Welcome back, everybody. This is our second and fourth shows today. Camille Ochoa's in the house. We were just talking beforehand. She's going through the ascension in nomadic the nomadic template, like so many of us have adopted over the last few years. But she's doing it with two children, 5 and 8, and a husband, a partner. And there's so much that we learn, from what people are going through. One of the reasons I love doing this show is because there are so many characteristics of our journeys that really don't change. And if you take away the emphasis of the linear timeline, there's so many people waking up now that can benefit from the story. So I have to start off by asking you the famous Soul Speaks 5D question. When did you wake up, or were you always this weird?
Well, I was undoubtedly weird, but my awakening happened, I would have to say, probably August 2017. So many people, I think, can resonate with that. That was a huge Lionsgate experience. Actually, it was, I was in such a place of inner turmoil within myself that I sought out a psychic medium. I think my sister recommended her, actually. And I had one phone conversation with her. I went outside to the car to have the phone conversation. It was the only quiet space in the house, with 2 kids. And then I don't remember any one particular thing that she said, but the whole energy of the experience was such that I must have had more of my soul come in to where I remember walking back into the house as if I just landed on Earth, like with fresh eyes, and it felt really surreal. So I've been going deeper and deeper into that activation and retrieving more of my soul self ever since.
Now, and that's really interesting because that's probably very similar to what a lot of people are going through now. Prior to that, did you know what the term ascension was? Had you heard about soul retrieval or anything like that? Or were you just going through a lot of stuff and you were seeking, some assistance, as you described when you went to see the psychic?
Yeah, I wasn't on a spiritual path per se. I grew up in Christianity. I went to private Christian schools my whole life, including college. So I was familiar with dogma. And having gone to church, I know what God feels like. I knew what God felt like. And that's really what I was drawn to in my life, or pulling from, I should say, in my life. But I didn't have a spiritual practice. I wasn't necessarily all that invested in the caricature of Jesus that I had been taught. So when that experience happened and more of me came in, then I started asking questions. I had always been interested in self-improvement, in that I was, always asking myself, well, what did I do? What did I do wrong in that experience? And, and learning gradually in that way. But I thought that was just a human instinct. I thought that was just a human thing. And that's how I was taking it. So when I had this experience, then all of a sudden I started going deeper into soul, spirit, energy, as it relates to matter, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you were having, you were internalizing things, which is taking some of us, a lot longer than a year or two, to start saying, oh, it's never them, it's always me. This is all for me, and taking things into yourself, like you said. Now, once that happened with this psychic, did you start to get downloads or anything like that? Did you get any type of, essences of the universe, let's say galactic, angelic, archangelic, elemental, anything start coming in, or were you hearing more of a singular voice?
I was picking up on energies, for example, of Brigitte, however you'd like to pronounce it, and the Celtic lineage, in that way, the Druid lineage. Wow. But as far as, I think I sort of skipped the phase where I worshipped it or saw it as higher than myself or something. Yeah. I think I just sort of skipped that, to where when I started, I picked up a book or something that was explaining about the Bridget energy, and in the back of it, it said ways to worship Bridget, and immediately in my heart and in my soul, I said, no. It's like, why would I worship that which I am? And that was the first thought that was really interesting to me. That may have been a channeled thought, because I had the thought, and then I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing. Let me go deeper into that. So as far as consciously sitting in a meditation and channeling energy, no, that hasn't been my way. It's been more of the spontaneous, clairsentient type of experience, of exploration. Yeah,
just knowing and feeling your way through your own sensitivities, your higher sensitivities. It sounds like you already had some higher sensitivities if you were internalizing stuff and taking the responsibility for your life, because that's really what you're describing, to say, why is this happening? What did I do? And that type of thing. Now, are you a practitioner?
Well, I have practiced a modality of reading natal charts. Yeah, that was taught to me. And so that was my main form of supporting myself over the course of this year. Okay. That I feel was a learning journey for me. And there was a whole soul family around that who really taught me a lot. And now I'm just in a different phase, in a different mode, to where I'm no longer as interested in looking at someone's natal chart and telling them, you carry energy from Lyra, and you carry energy from Aldebaran, and this and that. While that all may be true, I am really focus right now. I'm called to focus on grounding back into the human, into the earth, and not so much telling other people what they are. Yeah. But watching other people explore their own journeys and saving space for that.
Right on. Yeah, the embodiment thing has been front and center all year, really. And of course, here our second hashtag is the human is the hero.
I use it all the time, and I credit you guys. I love that.
We're getting some shirts made that say that the human is the hero. But I mean, it's, and I think that's one of the things, because I have talked to some people that, and really most of them have been women that had their experience, let's say the reawakening 2016, 2017. And they, at first, when I first started to hear these stories, I was amazed at how fast that they were, their pace. And then I started to realize, well, you know what, we're in a quantum field now. And so it's not, there's not that linear aspect, or at least it's not as emphatic as it used to be. And that's really interesting, because one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with, of course, we've all gone through the programming, I'm not enough, and, we're small, and the human species is the low dimension on the totem pole and all that. And so a lot of people, you even have come on the show and told their stories and talked about how, they did have the step where they externalized that essence or that face of the universe. And then they eventually embodied it and had their natural evolution in their spiritual path. But like in your case, it sounds like you sound like one of those new templates, and that's extraordinary. And you're doing this now. So you didn't have really an inclination consciously of ascension and and all that. You go see the psychic, then everything changes. How did and at the same time, you've got 2 young children and a partner. And so I would have to think, unless your partner was he on the spiritual path or an ascension path? I hate to even use these terms, but I guess what I'm looking for is, what was the impact on the relationship and the household? Did it alter y'all's state of being?
Yeah, that's a huge question, and it's everything, really, because, and you also use the word template. I do resonate with the archetype of a template writer, of being an experiencer in an experience, where I'm challenged to not go left as so many have done, not go right as so many have done, but find a middle path, find a middle way, and really blaze the trail. You could say there are many of us who are template writers who are writing a new way, but I feel that the major work that this mission mate and I have been doing, because that's what I refer to him now as, is not my spouse, because that's such an I made those vows when I was dead asleep in my consciousness, dead asleep. And I desire to evolve with him into a new way of being. So we are mission mates in this mission of evolving out of an old unconscious paradigm of relationship, of parenting, and into a new way of honoring his soul journey, honoring my soul journey. How can we honor those individualities and still work together and raise these spiritual elders that we call children, who are half the time raising us? It's been quite a journey. And actually, when I awakened, he went into a deep physical purge where he was sick essentially for 3 years. And I know that it was because of a DNA activation that was triggered through my awakening, which triggered his awakening. So
you are on the fast track, man. Wow. We need to put a set of cameras on you 24/7 and come out with a new type of reality show, because this is the new family template, That's pretty profound, though, what you just described. And it also tells me, at least it's my opinion, but I think you were already on track long before 2017. It sounds like with what happened to him, he was too. But that's powerful. 3-year purge as a result of the impact of your conscious awakening. Yeah. Have you seen people talk a lot about of course, the feminine and the masculine energy, that divine dance that goes on collectively and that goes on within ourselves as within without. But of course, a lot of that plays out, like with Morgan and I, and has played out in our evolution, in the physical incarnations representing the masculine and the feminine. Have you seen that dynamic in the physical aspect of your relationship with your mission mate?
Absolutely, because at the beginning of our relationship, back to what you were saying, that so these babies are essentially telling us how to raise them. I think these spiritual elders that we call children told us that they wanted more parental attention. It wasn't necessarily their highest path to be in daycare and things like that. So we made the commitment that one of us would always be at home. And initially it was me, because I was the one having the kids and needing to recover. So I was the one at home. He was working. Very traditional masculine feminine paradigm. And then when he got sick, he was the one staying at home with the children to physically recover. And I was out working. So we did have a physical pole flip. Right. And that pole flip idea has come up a lot in my year. I'm sure it's come up a lot for other people in their 2020. But so we had an externalized change, which got him out of the autopilot mindset of I'm the man, I provide, I this and that. And he got to be more in his feminine energy of receiving care, going internal, having his own internal explorations and purgings and discoveries, being a nurturer to the children primarily. But then this year we both stopped working in a traditional sense, and we've been really living off of divine manifestation and people's, the human's unconditional love for the other human, right? Wow. As itself.
That's powerful.
So we got more into the internal masculine and feminine within each of us. So it's you're right. It has been a fast track experience.
Yes, it has. I can tell. And even what you just said, I mean, that's a lot to take in. Let me absorb it for a second. But I mean, that's a beautiful natural progression. I know it must have had some fits and spurts from the human aspect. And I'm looking at him going, I know what I've been through for the last few years, with the influence of that incarnated feminine energy, and, but I can't imagine that, to the reaction being a physical, physical purge to the degree that he's gone through, and really the dynamic pushing, blessings are burdens and burdens are blessings. I mean, the dynamics and the transformational impact that it had in your relationship with your mission mate. I love that. I'm gonna have to use that phrase since you're using human as the hero. But yeah, so was it painful? Did he go through a lot of did he go through some pain and suffering? And I mean, a lot of these, and me included, a lot of these men have gone through some serious soul searching, and I would imagine the kids probably were positive tuning forks for him and you both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. His physical process sometimes looked like him not even being able to stand on his feet for 10 minutes. It was like his skin was kind of falling off. I mean, not to be too graphic, and also to honor his dignity.
Absolutely.
It was a skin issue, but it was coming from the inside out, which, of course, right? Yeah. So I think he resonates with saying that he's the type of soul who's been down here for a really long time. And so there were a lot of programs, a lot of wounds, so much internal healing that hadn't been done lifetime after lifetime. Yeah. So I think he took 3 years to just physically purge it out, as a representation of like, as within, so without, as above, so below type of thing. He was having a physical experience of what was also happening in his soul. He was doing, and he still does deep soul work.
Well, and that's amazing. Now this lifestyle, that he, I'm going to talk about him for a second, that now he wasn't doing, you weren't doing this. Then you had the experience. He wasn't doing it prior either, was he? I mean, not conscious. So that's another fascinating and encouraging dynamic that you guys are bringing to the table too, is the fact that you both have locked into it. I know we went through the purge and all, but you're obviously talking about this. You're, eating, sleeping, drinking, breathing this every day. I can tell by what you're saying. He's very much focused and in the game, just like you are.
Yes, absolutely. He is, I would say, more of a shamanic earth type energy, where he's on that type of path where he wants to integrate, and he does integrate like plant medicines into his life, and honoring the earth energy that's coming up. Whereas I resonate to say that I'm more of like an energy that doesn't incarnate here very often, and I'm really trying to get down to earth, get down into my body. That's my path. So he and so we're, in a way, we're on different paths, and it's also, that's the challenge for us, is to honor each path. But he has a lot of wisdom within him that's coming up from Gaia, that it does represent what all has happened here over the stretch of human history.
Yeah, we can move on from this, but I got to tell you, this is our story. I mean, when I met her a little over 5 years ago, and I didn't really have any, much going on, at least consciously. In retrospect, I did, but galactic. I mean, it was a foreign word to me. And then I met an ET named Morgan Lee, and one of the first things that I said to her was, you know, I'm from the earth. I've been here for thousands and thousands of lives, not years. And I could tell something in me just knew innately that she didn't come here very often. So our relationship has been that beautiful dance of polarities, like you're talking about, respecting both journeys. We're both coming from different ends of the spectrum. She is, you know, has all this stuff up here very naturally, and I guess you could call it women's intuition. You can relate to that. It'd be one way to put it. And she's pulling it down. I used to find it very interesting that somebody that had that incredible connection with infinite intelligence, it took me about 2 or 3 years to realize how much of a struggle and how different it was for her to be human and to embody that stuff.
Yeah.
And then for me, it was the opposite. You know, for me, it was the opposite. I found that stuff up there. I'm like, oh, I'm not a human being. You know, I am soul. And she said, no, let me tell you something. You cannot find your soul until you find your human being. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, I can totally relate to that. How about the kids? I mean, how in the day to day, how does their energy come through? How does their guidance come through? Do they say it? Is it telepathic, intuitive?
Well, you know, recently, I was working with an oracle deck. I think it is one of Kyle Gray's decks. Something about ancestors, but I was like pulling cards, like, tell me more about these kids. And so for our daughter, the 8-year-old, I got for her water guardian. She comes through with the emotional support. Even before she could speak English, she was speaking her own little alien language. But she would, I would be fighting. When he and I would really be at challenge with each other, she would take his hand, take my hand, and and like put our hands together.
Oh
and
my
like,
God.
to come back into our hearts and to balance out our emotions. And, you know, so I feel like she does a lot of that kind of work with us. And for Solomon, the 5-year-old, I pulled for him Heart Guardian, to where when I was holding him as a baby, I would have these massive heart chakra expansions, just like, whoa, you know, holding him so close and feeling like he's cracking me open.
Wow.
And so he grounds in the love. Luna is like a love warrior. She'll fight for what's right. We say she's very cheeky. So in that way, I feel like she balances a lot of these different emotions very well, the passion and patience and all these different polarities. And Solomon, I feel like he's here for love.
Wow. You know, you describe these two kids and this is what I see, at least my opinion, my perspective, which is fascinating. First of all, it's fascinating because you've got the parents who are doing the dance, and then you have these two children. And it's so interesting to me because if you look at the transformation that's occurring in the physical bodies, for the most part, I know it doesn't always, it's not always, because there's same-sex relationships and there's just a lot of different dynamics. But for the most part, you're seeing the feminine coming out, and she's kind of like what you just described, like almost like a Kali energy. Like, you know, I can be patient, I can be loving, and I'm very pure, but I'm going to put your hands together. And if you guys don't equalize with me, I'm going to go ahead and let you know, that kind of thing. So you're seeing this fierce, soft power coming through with the feminine. And then the masculine, you're describing Solomon, and it's the new masculine or the emerging divine masculine is this soft power, this softness, this heart-based thing that he was separated from for the most part. And again, there's exceptions, and I understand that. So that's fascinating that you actually have these microcosms of all these different elements of this transition we call the ascension. It's all in your household. But now another aspect of your little family caravan here is when we were before the show started, and I said, where are you living at? And you said San Diego, but we've been kind of traveling around the West Coast this year. Now that's something that you hear with a Todd and a Morgan who kids are grown up, and and a lot of other people being called to go here and go there. But you have a family.
Yeah.
And how did that come about? How does that work?
Well, last year I'd say like Lionsgate 2019. I was called to quit my job. I was working in San Francisco. I was commuting a long ways because we couldn't afford to live in San Francisco on one income. So I was commuting deep into the suburbs, which actually turned out to be great for my process, because that means I had a lot of alone time sitting in traffic, able to listen to binaural beats and channelings and stuff like that. But I was just called to quit on faith. And luckily the organization, I had a generous, you could say golden handshake or whatever, of course, divinely guided. Everything has been divinely guided. And so that got us to the end of the year, 2019. And then it was just like, okay, Spirit, so money done ran out. What do you want us to do about this? And the answer came in like, well, you need to stop having so many expenses. You need to get out of this rental house. You need to sell a lot of your stuff, pack up your stuff in the car. And at that time, I was working with someone as a business partner in that modality that I was deep in here. And so I think that was like the carrot to move us out and of where we were, and to have us feel like we had some sort of security under us. In the end, over the course of the year, that's just sort of dissolved away. And I see that was a beautiful learning experience and a beautiful mirage to get us to walk into the deserts, into the unknown.
Wow.
On a journey with no end in sight.
I mean, that's totally understandable and relatable for an individual adult or a couple, like Morgan and I, let's just say, because we know that that's not an easy path. I mean, we've been doing this for a while, and we've had it took us a long while. I mean, we just got our own place in June after, 4.5 years. I mean, so there was, so I know I can understand the challenges and the hurdles and the pitfalls, and of course the expansions that come with it. But to do this with a family is fascinating. So you guys are collectively surrendering to the universe. You're having this conversation. It's not just coming from one person. I'm giggling over here because as you're describing your conversation with the universe, I can't help but see in the field your children, their higher selves behind the voice of that. Quit your job and all that stuff. That's fascinating, though. That really is.
And what's beautiful is that for me, it absolutely looked like surrendering to the universe and all these galactic energies and my higher self, my God self. And for my mission mate, Ed, his name is Ed, it looked like him surrendering to me. So in that way, I know that he's a template writer as well, and that he plays this, he wrote a path where that masculine embodiment lets itself just melt into the woman's guidance, into what the woman is saying. Honey, I think that this is the path forward. This is what I'm discerning. And I give him so much credit for really stepping into that trust of me and allowance to let me lead.
We must have come from the same branch of the tree of life, because you're describing the energy, but the same energy that Morgan and I have gone through. And, I remember because I didn't have, she was downloading this stuff since 1999. She was downloading Ascension. She was downloading Divine Union, Sacred Sexuality, just all this stuff. And I mean, she had books and books and books of stuff that you can go look at now that was written 10, 12, 15 years ago. That's saying exactly what was to happen. Now, for me, it was a little bit different because I was like Ed. I was very organic and I felt my way through. But what I'm getting at is that early on, she would say the feminine is going to lead the way. It's going to look like she's leading the way. She will be leading the way for a while until the masculine comes up. And then when he comes up, she'll go and make space again. And this has been the dance, right?
Yeah.
Well, when she first would tell me that, I would be like, of course, the distorted part of me would be like, what? I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. But I did listen. I always listened. And there was something innate about that. Like, I really didn't resist, if she said, and even to this day, I wanted to launch our network online, from the website early last year, but she came to me and said, I don't think it's the right time. And I had it'd been a long journey. It'd been several years that I'd been getting this download, and this is what you're to do. But she made me understand, feeling alignment doesn't necessarily mean you have to go do something right away. But my point is, this dialogue and this experience that you're describing with your husband, with your mission mate, I apologize, is really indicative of what's occurring on the collective scale, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I also know that our path has been expedited. We've been on the express train, you could say.
Yeah, right.
To present one model for how it can be done. There are others who are, going to choose other paths and writing other models, and that's beautiful. And I'm sort of trying to keep us focused on, okay, but what is the model that we are here to demonstrate? And I honestly don't know what it looks like going forward, because I'm just so deep in this mode of the old marriage structure is just that it's old. I don't feel like I'm carrying it forward into the new earth within.
No.
Others may, but for me, I'm not.
It's a program. And you're right about that too, whether it's the template that you are, that you are showing everybody, or any other of these templates. It is literally, you wake up the next, you go through the day, let's just say, to speak, figuratively and literally, you get to the end of the day and you have a certain kind of frame of mind or template or holding pattern or whatever you want to call it. And you wake up the next day and it's a whole new canvas. Mm-hmm. Like, I guess you got to stay open. I find this amazing, what you're doing, what you and your family are doing, and vital, and obviously you're injecting this into this new grid that we're all creating, whether you're in front of, a million people telling the story or just doing it and nobody sees you. Have you had any, have you put any thought into, because a lot of people talk about the third energy, of course, as we move into the age of Trinity, and where two or more gather, that energy, that invisible aspect of us that starts to create with you and reciprocate your efforts, which you're living proof of that, you and your family. Have you thought about, or is there something coming into your field in regard to how you expand awareness of your experience? Have y'all thought about that at all?
Well, the third energy and like the third way, the Trinity, these are concepts that that we have been diving into deeply this year. As far as how that manifests, it manifests itself differently in each scenario, and we're trying to stay nimble to each scenario. But even just, okay, I have masculine and feminine energies within myself, and those are in union. And once I come into union within myself, there is this third energy that manifests itself out of me, and it's dynamic. It's a dynamic energy to where it can look like this with this person in this interaction, but then in another situation, in another paradigm, that third energy is just so morphic, and so. I'm really trying not to have any particular set idea as to how I'm going to move forward. And our field is wide open right now in that we're both at the tail end of this year where we've done a lot of travel. Now we're feeling like, okay, that travel piece is done. We see what the goal of that or what the purpose of that was for us, being in all these different communities, meeting all these different people. And now we're sort of thinking about, okay, it's time to build, but what are we building? Are our foundations even the same? Are we supposed to be laying the same foundation and using one foundation, or are we building in such completely different directions that the foundations need to be different? And it changes day by day, the answers that I'm getting. I'm having to so quickly recalibrate my energetic recipe that it feels kind of like whiplash. It feels kind of like a whirlwind, and I don't know. tomorrow.
Yeah, I can relate to this. This is very cool. And one of the challenges I think, and God, you've got all the ingredients, all the characteristics, all wrapped up in one, and then there's four of you, which it makes it even more interesting. But one of the big things that people have had a challenge with when they've gone into this type of lifestyle, even if it's just one person, has been money. Has been, how am I going to make a living? And I'll come back to that in a minute. What you had said earlier about how it evolved toward the end of this year. But estrangement from family. You're crazy. What are you doing? You're not normal. You have children. I mean, you probably heard that one. I didn't hear that one. You have children. What are you doing? I mean, have you guys had to contend with that? And I think the second part of what I'd love to hear you speak on, you said something earlier when you first opened up the show, and you said, this was kind of our evolution. I was in San Francisco, and then we went to this, and I was using this modality, and then that, and really, I'm not quite, because you weren't specific, but it sounded like you guys were stepping forth in faith in what you were doing in and of your collective unit there, and knowing that the universe would reciprocate. And it sounds like it has been reciprocating. How do you do that? How do you work with the universe in this non-conformist, it's against the grain. It's unconventional, from the templates that we're coming out of. How do you do that? I mean, I'm familiar with it. There's two of us. I can speak from my singular experience. I can speak as a couple, but there's four of you. I can't imagine that you guys are not all, have a convergence of focus and resonance.
Right. I mean, one of the first things I had to do in preparation for that big leap was really challenge my pre-programming around, but what about the children? Oh, no, I can't do this because of children. In fact, that's a deeply set template within my branch of the family, which is, oh no, this marriage isn't working for me, but I can't leave because the children, or, I don't like this job, but I have to keep working because the children. And so, even when I was working, that was part of my work my internal work at that time, was really challenging that but they're not precious little idiots. They are like, that's more my personality coming out now. They're not,
I love it.
But they are actually they're at a soul level. I feel like they're my elders, and they chose to come in to experience this.
Yeah.
They knew what they were incarnating into. So, and that's why I love calling this a mission crew, and they're my mission mates. This is a mission tribe.
You're very galactic with these words you're using. There's no doubt about that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, because we're all doing that work together. They knew what they were coming in and doing.
Yeah.
So in that way, I hear what people say when they come at it from a place of concern for the young ones. And that also a major factor in us flourishing this year, in, whatever way it's flourishing looks like for us, is honoring, okay, I hear your point. You have a point. I understand that you're coming to me with these words from a place of love and concern for the kids. And so taking that sort of duality out of it, where I don't have to look at it like they're fighting with me about this. I don't have to look at it like they're judging me. I can choose to not be in that frame of mind about it. I can choose to see their heart when they say these things and say, okay, thank you. I'm so grateful that you love my children so much that you're expressing your concern to me. I honor that. And just in alchemizing the energy in that way, and me receiving love, essentially, when maybe they thought that they were coming at me with a criticism, what I received through my own self-discipline was love. And so that then begets more love. That then begets more manifestation of what we need to succeed. And me being not digging my heels in, and Ed not digging his heels in, and saying, we're open to not being nomads anymore. If we are called to lay a foundation somewhere to ground in, okay, we're not fighting that. If that's indeed the best path forward. And so by dropping resistance
Yeah.
and in flow. The path has unfolded one step at a time, not any faster than that. We only see one step ahead.
That's right.
We take a step.
That's right. God, this is refreshing. And you guys are just knocking down, hammering down energetic doors. And I love the way you explain that too, because, I'm sitting here, reflecting, and, you're, and this is not taking anything away from anyone, but, your extended family, let's just say, and friends, and this isn't about you or talking energy, is really, they're just physical representations of these programs or these energies or whatever you want to call it. But you're talking about a Christian, dogmatic, traditional society and conventional stuff going on. Yeah, you're addressing it from what we would have to call spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really argue with that, because if you look at any different religion, there is a common thread through all of them. They've been, muddied up a little bit here and there, but, the golden rule runs in every one of them. I mean, the basis of love runs in every one of them. Oneness runs in every one of them. So you're actually being that and communicating from that vantage point. And so you're being met with congruence, it sounds like.
And that helped a lot also, was to make that connection and realize that in everything there's a kernel of truth. Even in the baldest lie, there's a kernel of truth, because you can't create anything without organic energy, and truth is organic. So even by creating the falsest agenda, the most, and if you look at it through a duality lens, the most disempowering agenda, even in that, you can parse through and you can pick out the kernel of truth there. And that really helped me to get out of a place of duality, of this is against me, that is against me. It's what's coming at me doesn't look all that pretty. So let me pick out the one kernel of truth and hold on to that and disregard the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I was talking to someone a couple of days ago, and it's a couple of friends of mine, and I don't know, I don't remember the exact words in the conversation, but I kind of remember the context, which was one of them was saying, like, I'm not going to go into this situation over here unless I have A, B, C, D, and E. And so from an energetic standpoint, you could be talking about anything. And I just was like, I've been down that road. We're in a different field now. And the universe is basically saying, hey, this is not negotiable. You get it all, the whole kit and caboodle. So instead of trying to negotiate whether you're going to walk through this door, you walk through the door and be the transformer that you are. And you are exemplifying that, you and your family.
Thank you, Todd. Wow, this has been so flattering, such a flattering experience.
It's true. I mean, I talk to a lot of people. Obviously, we'll be at 2,500 shows with this program next month, and it's that's why I said earlier, and I probably didn't pose the question right, but it would just seem to me, okay, that with what you and your family are representing, and maybe I'm just feeling the alignment or seeing the reality of it unfolding, but I haven't really seen, but 2 or 3 examples of this to this degree. It would just seem likely to me that this type of energy is going to take a more pronounced, visibility within the world. And I was just curious as to whether or not any of that type of intel has come to y'all where, like, hey, maybe we're going to be working with couples or with families or it sounds to me like you're doing just fine. So don't let me put any pressure on you, because that's not what I mean by it. But I can see where this is going to be a huge impact, just like these children. Like, these children we were talking about before the show, everybody got locked down, in March, and, 9 months is coming up, and a lot of people have cited the 1221 being the birthing of the golden child energy. And yet you're going to have physical representations of that in mass degree,
right?
From a frequency and energetic level is going to be huge on this earth, no matter what's going on in the mainstream media or the world stage or whatever. Those children, I agree with what you said. They are our teachers. They are our elders.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, And, you know, I was thinking about December 21st as I was, you know, preparing for today, for this talk. And to me, it does feel like a massive energetic shift. And I'm not quite sure that it's going to be the physical explosion that maybe some are expecting. But I do think that it has the energetic shift has a lot to do with the children being born, and also new souls coming in to vessels who are open to receiving either more of that soul or a walk-in soul.
Yeah.
To that, and it's going to drastically change how we walk this plane with each other, what we build, how we group ourselves in so-called societies, what we value, what we're moving towards as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in total agreement with you. And somebody came on a couple of days ago. I never can remember who says what on this show because there's so many of them. But they were talking about you know how December 21st is on the linear. It's there's a line of distinction there. You know, there's a point, a marker, but that in the energetic field, it's nonlinear. And so on the linear explanation, there could be people stepping into whatever that is, you know, a month before and a year later. There's this space, this field of potential, of new potential that is you are going to start to see in our physical experiences, because as we all know, everything happens in the energetic field first, and then you start to see the manifestation of it. I'm amazed at, you know, again, I've seen it in my own life. You know, I mean, I've seen it in the life I share with Morgan. I've seen it in other people I've talked to, but I've not seen, and I've been exposed to families such as yours. Candace Coe, my sister up in Vancouver, she mentioned that your children were a very similar template. You know, the daughter, the son, they had the same energy as yours, and of course their marriage. But to have them also have the component of the nomadic thing, right? That's pretty amazing. So you're getting a high level of what people were referring to as instant manifestation. You know, pretty instant reciprocation from the universe. And what I love about what you say too is that it's very much at least in my own experience, and you're giving me validation, that the more you accept and allow the present moment to dictate. You know, I always say, you know, not always, but on a lot of shows, I do give thanks and gratitude. And I'll say, thank you for the love and support and contributions. It allows us to keep doing this by the seat of our pants every day. And that's not a complaint. That's just how this new energy works. We don't have a savings account. You don't have a savings account. You don't. You know, we came over to the mainland last year on Lionsgate. You know, we were told we were living in Kauai. We'd been nomads for a long time. It was very difficult. We were always struggling, you know, from a human standpoint.
Right.
And we were told one day, you know, now we're living in Hawaii. We can see the ocean from our loft apartment. There's a waterfall 2 blocks away. There's a mountain 5 minutes away. And we're living on an organic farm. You know, I mean, come on. Yeah. And then we wake up one day and our higher self said, hey, pack your stuff.
Right. Time to move.
Going to the mainland. Mm-hmm. But it was amazing. Morgan went off for about a day. She goes, I got to go. You know, I can't believe this, you know. Mm-hmm. But by the time she came back and we put our heads together and we both surrendered, I'm telling you, within 24 hours, somebody said, hey, you can come stay at my place at Laguna Beach for 3 days. And then it was, you can come stay at my apartment. I just moved out of it for 30 days in Ventura Beach. And it was like a checkerboard. And we went all over the West Coast like you did, to Sedona, to Arkansas, to Florida. And there was so much abundance, energy that was not in the traditional forms of what we might consider abundance, primarily money. You know, so that's the energy that I see that you guys are engaging in a very fluid and seamless way. Uh-oh, we lost your voice. We lost your voice. The energy just knocked it off. This happens sometimes. Frequency gets so high, I don't know what happened. Oh, wait a minute. Did I hear something? No. It's okay. No matter what, it's always okay. That's one of the things I learned from one of my kids, one of my 6 kids. I'd say, it's going to be okay. He said, Dad, it's always okay. It's always okay. No go. We'll have to do this again. I know you. Can you hear me? Can you?
I don't know if
Oh, wait a minute.
I'd say seamless.
You're.
Because
Oh, you know what? It's your
we
signal.
have
It's your signal.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Oh, wait, it's coming back. It's coming back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Sounds like that cell phone commercial, doesn't it? Can you hear me now? What I was going to say is, I'd love to, because you're cutting out. I'm going to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. You good?
Hello?
No, you're not. Okay. Okay. Let me just say this to you.
Hello?
Hello? We would love. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So let me say this to you. Okay. Let me say this to you. We would love to collaborate with you again after the first of the year, if you're open to it. We would, and we're not, no pressure, no nothing. We'd love to see more of the energy that your family exemplifies. So it could be you and me, it could be you and Ed talking with me, it could be your children, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you're comfortable with, just let me know. And we're open to that. No. Yeah. So hopefully you heard what I said. Yeah. Yeah. We'll let this go. This is perfect. The divine orchestration. You're a beautiful, beloved, brave sister, and the best, all blessings to you and your family. The collaboration invitation with you and your husband, and your children is a standing offer.
Yes.
So. Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
We'll be back in